This is a 1970s gangland murder, Sydney style.
Go, get in the boat. You're stuffed. Will you swim with the fishes?
Too much blood on the streets embarrasses the corrupt politicians and police who are paid to protect the city's crime kings.
Get up, get up, get up!
No! Get up, your family!
And so now, if you challenge the Mr. Biggs of Sydney, instead of being killed in a violent public hit, you simply disappear.
Australia's most notorious criminal bandits. Generation after generation. Crime Investigation Australia. Families of crime.
In the 1960s, the criminal underworld in Sydney undergoes a change and it becomes more structured, more efficient and more lethal.
In the vice trade, out went the laneway prostitutes and in came massage parlours and, fully established brothels.
It's the system that comes to be known as organised crime, where rackets are divided between members of a powerful cartel of extortionists, as opposed to the smaller, independent operators. One of the pioneers of Sydney's new organised crime is Lenny McPherson, a tough petty thief prone to fits of uncontrollable rage.
Lenny was one of the biggest and most powerful criminals in Australia, there's no doubt about that. He had a very heavy reputation and he carried it through.
From an early age, he was interested in explosives, he was a criminal, he was a thief, he was a rapist.
He had visions of becoming an Al Capone from the time he was very young. He was capable of anything, absolutely ruthless, there's no hesitation.
Leonard Arthur McPherson. He begins life in the inner Sydney suburb of Balmain, and he spends much of his teenage years in a juvenile detention centre.
In his very early days, in the 1940s, he's in his 20s, he got a job at the Balmain Mort's dock, and that was to avoid going into military service. Apart from the job at Mort's dock, he never took a job, never took a serious job. He set out to be a criminal and he had great success at that.
At 30, Lenny McPherson goes on a crime study tour of the United States to learn more about how organised crime syndicates work in America. Back in Sydney, after his US trip, McPherson is arrested during a major burglary in the city centre and returned to prison. While inside, he meets a small-time thief named George Freeman. George Freeman also comes from inner Western Sydney. Like McPherson, he's a minor crook who passes through juvenile detention before ending up in prison.
Where was I to learn anything? Would they learn to be gossip boys how to chop trees down, or scrub floors, or things like that?
If you look at Freeman's criminal record, in those early years, probably up to about mid-1960s, somewhere around that period, he was charged about 35 times with a whole variety of criminal offences.
Once out of prison, Freeman begins a slow takeover of small SP bookmakers right across Sydney. Before the TAB, these illegal starting price bookmakers take a fortune in bets from those who don't go to the races.
He was much better at handling money. He was very good at figures. That's one of the few things he got from school. He did learn to read and do mathematics, so he could work out odds on horse races and things.
Out went the friendly Freds running the SPs in the local hotels and often suburban or country homes, and in came syndicated SP bookmaking.
Macpherson saw in Freeman the ability to really get control of the SP bookie business. So I see Lenny as the manipulative boss, the one who did the deals with the cops.
One of their henchmen is a childhood friend of Freeman's, a tough enforcer named Stan the Man Smith. As well as milking the SP operators, Macpherson and his henchmen provide debt collection services. He also operates protection rackets on backstreet abortion and illegal prostitution.
All sorts of protection rackets. Whatever there was a quid in, and Lenny could see it, he'd go along and offer protection, and it was usually a good idea to accept it.
Macpherson and Freeman have no respect for the usual criminal code of silence and happily dob in SP bookmakers, bank robbers and other criminals who question their authority.
Lenny discovered early in the piece that the way to the greatest freedom of his enterprise, if I could put it that way, was to be a fizgeek, and this is to rat on criminals and their activities to the police.
His main contact is a senior detective named Ray Kelly.
Well, it was a two-way affair. They used and exploited Lenny so he could inform them on what was happening in the underworld and to do some things that they might have wanted done in the underworld. And he in turn made use of them by having them protect him and his businesses.
Yes.
Information was the currency of police, so that if a particular cop wanted an informant to keep him provided with information, he would say to someone else, look, leave him alone, he's a police informant, he's very important to us.
Rather than go and shoot the opposition, Lenny's philosophy was he'd rather get him arrested and put in jail, and that's what he did.
Macpherson's association with police detective Ray Kelly produces useful underworld intelligence, but it also undermines public confidence in the police and the New South Wales justice system. Lenny Macpherson's underworld status is further enhanced when he uses his police connections to beat a murder charge. The victim is a rival criminal named George Hackett, who's lured into an ambush in an inner-city laneway. Macpherson and a henchman are waiting in the shadows with their pistols drawn. Hackett is shot dead. Macpherson is charged with murder, but Ray Kelly releases him and gives him the names of the witnesses. The case collapses when Macpherson persuades the witnesses to withdraw their testimony.
Lenny was very imposing. He had a very sort of tough voice, you knew. Anyone who spoke to Lenny, or if he spoke to you, you knew he was powerful. There's no risk about it, and he just had presence.
Lenny Macpherson is just as violent at home as he is on the streets. For years, his wife Dawn has endured his frequent sadistic attacks until finally he goes too far.
And he went screaming after her into the kitchen and picked up the pot of peas and pulled his gun out and emptied the gun through the bottom of the saucepan. Hot peas and hot lead ricocheted around the kitchen. She understandably started screaming, and he still had the gun in his hand, and he started hitting her, and then his pistol ripped her.
Dawn is about to lay civil charges for attempted murder when she's visited by Detective Ray Kelly.
Ray Kelly intervened on Macpherson's behalf, and a settlement of a significant amount of money, I don't know how much, and Dawn went away and remarried and left that awful life behind her.
Macpherson records a weekly underworld news report for police using an old tape recorder.
A low-life crim that I know was once in Lenny's house. He was doing the recording, and the guy saw the take-up reel going round and round. 2 weeks later, he's in Ray Kelly's office, and he said, I've seen that tape reel before. And Kelly just said, yeah, that's McPherson's monthly report on all you bastards.
The tight links between McPherson and senior detectives undermines the public's trust in the entire New South Wales police force and the justice system. Witnesses to crimes refuse to come forward, fearing they'll be betrayed to criminals. And those in the underworld who dare to challenge the authority of McPherson and Freeman find their punishment is swift and lethal. By the 1960s, Sydney crime kings Lenny McPherson and George Freeman are making a fortune extorting payments from illegal SP gambling operators.
Oh, well, the turnover.
McPherson is also using his police connections to control the abortion and prostitution rackets. His main muscle man is the violent thug, Stan the Man Smith.
You know, of all the crime leaders, or gangsters you might call them, who ruled Sydney in the 1960s and especially into the 70s and the 80s, Stan Smith would have to go down in history as probably the most feared of all. Personally, he's probably responsible for about 11 murders and remained dominant until his death in more recent times.
In 1963, a violent young criminal named Robert Pretty Boy Walker stands up to Smith and shoots him in the leg. A few weeks later, Smith and McPherson stage a very public revenge. It's carried out on the day of McPherson's wedding to his second wife, Marlene Gilligan. McPherson suddenly excuses himself from his wedding reception, and he and Smith drive in a stolen car to the eastern suburb of Randwick.
Where is this little prick? Oh, you'll show.
You not at a wedding?
Oh, no. You'll show. There's someone.
Is it him?
Yeah, it's him.
McPherson and Smith watch as Pretty Boy Walker walks up the street.
It was the first time a submachine gun had been used in a gangland killing. 9mm bullets, boom, 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 and Pretty Boy Walker's dead. Now, what we do know is that Stan the Man Smith was driving the car, and Lenny McPherson was going boom, boom, boom with a submachine gun.
Come on, Len, let's go, mate.
The assassins speed away, and McPherson is soon back at his wedding.
Nice.
Didn't see that coming.
Goes out and kills the man, then comes back to the wedding reception as though nothing had happened. I mean, it's very bizarre. And of course, what a perfect alibi for a murder. Sorry, I was getting married. Ray Kelly took over the investigation of that, and McPherson was never asked a question. Not officially or documented, never asked a question.
That was the same time as which Freeman then really started in earnest in organising the SP rackets and race rigging, which used to run for more than a decade.
Soon after he's cleared in the Pretty Boy inquest, Lenny McPherson kills again. A rival standover man is hit by 10 bullets. Detective Kelly investigates, and no charges are laid. While McPherson benefits from his underworld reputation of having police in his pocket, he deals ruthlessly with anyone who accuses him of being a police informer. When the satirical magazine Oz names him as a fizzgig, which means a snitch, McPherson pays a sinister visit to express his displeasure. When a criminal named Jackie Steele circulates the Oz article around the underworld, McPherson kills him. Shotguns, rifles and pistols are used to blast Steele full of 50 pellets and bullets. And as usual, there are no witnesses and no one's charged. McPherson repays his protector, Ray Kelly, by leading the detective to an elusive Melbourne jail escapee and murderer, Ronald Ryan, who's hiding in Sydney. Kelly's arrest of Ryan makes headlines, and the old detective retires a hero.
Thy will be done.
Ryan is immortalised as the last person to be hanged in Australia. Sydney is now entering a black era of brazen official corruption, nourished by millions of dollars from the new illegal casino industry. McPherson moves in for his cut. After the election of the Askin state government in 1965, these illegal casinos become a river of gold for politicians and police.
No more bets.
Premier Askin, later Sir Robert Askin, has been a gambler all his life, even operating as a small SP bookmaker in the army during World War II.
Place your bets.
He sees no harm in turning a blind eye to illegal casinos, especially as the state is already awash with multiple forms of betting.
Once McPherson, Freeman and Smith were declared to be the big three, the decision was made that we can really upgrade our casinos and make them into proper businesses where there would be protection provided.
The casino owners flaunt their wealth, mixing publicly with leaders of church and state. They drive Rolls Royces and they race expensive thoroughbreds. The location of the casinos is openly discussed, and the media asks, if we can find them, why can't the police?
Winning number 16 red.
Yes, all right.
The answer is obvious.
To survive in this sort of illegal industry and the broader gambling industry, you have to have everyone on side.
But not necessarily the politicians. See, the average politician doesn't have a lot of power if he's not the minister. I mean, you only had to own one minister, or one or two ministers, or somebody at the top to do that.
The police quietly argue that the big illegal casinos help them watch the spending of suspected criminals. And thanks to McPherson's information, detectives can also follow criminals at the smaller illegal ethnic card clubs in the suburbs.
Freeman and McPherson recruited a fellow named Frank Hakim, who was known as the Lebanese Godfather and who was connected out at Redford. And his responsibility was more about working with McPherson than Freeman.
At one stage, over 100 or more ethnic gambling places in all the suburbs of Sydney, Lenny controlled them.
McPherson's power is about to grow even greater. He will even be able to gain official access to New South Wales prisons to intimidate rival criminals in their jail cells. And he'll stage a fearless and bloody execution right in front of police in the middle of a crowded Sydney nightclub. By the mid-1960s, New South Wales is awash in corruption as criminal Lenny McPherson maintains a squalid partnership with senior police. His bloody reign as king of the Sydney underworld has been marked by at least 4 public assassinations. McPherson's influence is now so strong that, incredibly, he's permitted to make unsupervised visits to prisoners inside Sydney's biggest jails.
Heard you were making plans.
His purpose is to intimidate criminals who've been conspiring against him whilst in prison.
As far as I'm concerned, you're guilty.
Playing the part of judge and jury, McPherson holds a series of mock courtroom trials and sentences his enemies to death.
When you get out of here, you make yourself scarce. Bloody scarce.
Got it, Lenny. Got it.
One of those condemned in these bizarre kangaroo courts is the notorious criminal Ducky O'Connor.
A lot of them had delusions of grandeur, and Ducky was one of those who thought that Lenny got too powerful and we're going to take over. And Chicka Reeves was another one of those.
You know what they do to a lame horse? They put it down.
And they called Ducky in, and Lenny said, "You're charged with conspiring with Chicka Reeves to knock me." And they called witnesses. Of course, nobody's going to speak against Lenny. And they found him guilty. And so the decision was made in a jail cell that Ducky was going to die.
Ducky O'Connor is freed from jail and his death sentence is carried out at Sydney's Latin Quarter nightclub. None of the witnesses will talk, but club owner Sammy Lee tells journalist Tony Reeves exactly how Ducky died. At 3:30 in the morning, in the Latin Quarter, in May 1969, the dancing girls have finished for the night.
And O'Connor comes in, starts gun screaming and yelling, and there were two coppers there.
Pussy bastard! I'm gonna kill you! I won't go! You killed my glass! You bastard! Get off me, coppers! Get off me! You're dead, Ducky!
They got up and pushed him into the middle and sat on his hands, so he couldn't move. And McPherson pulls a gun out and crawls under the table and reaches up and goes bang.
Get off me, you bludgeon! Calm down. Stop it! Get us
Shot him in the head. And of course that's not the evidence that was given to the coroner.
He was shot by Lenny at a table in the nightclub, crowded at the time, and attended by some of the society people of Sydney.
Get off me, you bludgeon!
But nobody saw anything, even though there were two police sitting on a table alongside.
Jesus, Lenny.
Significantly, Lenny got away with it, and that symbolised, in the public mind and particularly in the underworld, viewpoint, that Lenny was somewhat untouchable.
How you doing, boys?
In 1969, Lenny McPherson begins strengthening his alliance with the American Mafia. He sends George Freeman and Stan Smith to the United States to meet with mobster Joseph Dan Tester. Tester then visits Australia.
That might tell you that some of the real top figures of the Mafia of the United States, especially from Las Vegas, but even including Chicago and California, came to Australia and they got involved with Lenny.
Now, with the help of the American Mafia, they're moving their racketeering into Sydney's giant registered clubs with their tens of thousands of poker machines.
And that involved the skimming of money, particularly the skimming of money from poker machines.
There was also a fair level of activity through the entertainment industry, the booking of mafia-controlled American acts into the poker machine clubs in Sydney.
Well,
in 1972,
you all know why we're here?
McPherson and Freeman hold a summit with other powerful criminals to complete the organisation of all rackets in Sydney.
A good mate from the States.
And Freeman was the host at most of the visits by the US Mafia, and he had the strongest links,
Deal with him?
stronger than McPherson, with the people in Las Vegas, for instance.
Instead of everyone missing out, we all make money.
An undercover Commonwealth police officer informs the New South Wales Police of McPherson's sinister summit.
You want to make more money? Of course you do.
But the information is ignored. The frustrated federal cops then leak the story to the media. Newspapers begin accusing Premier Askin of covering up Mafia allegations. Under pressure in Parliament, Askin establishes a royal commission. McPherson is called to give evidence and is publicly identified as the Mr. Big of Sydney crime. He denies any connection to organised crime. He even takes exception to the title.
I don't know why. Look, fair dinkum, I really don't know why they'd say that. Mr. Big, Mr. Big. Now, don't you know Mr. Big enough? And then they say Mr. Little, a Mr. Big of little statue. All these things have over the years, and you just don't know what. What can you do?
And he just lied and had this extraordinary attack of amnesia. Just told absolute lies, made up stories as he went along.
Freeman is also interrogated and gets his first major media coverage, being portrayed as a dapper, smartly dressed racing identity.
We all know Mr. Freeman was, well into the SP betting and all that kind of activity that was fairly rampant in those days.
All my crimes are association. People knowing me, me knowing them. And if you want me to stop talking to people, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk to whoever I like. And I can't see why I can't do that.
The Commission's most sensational revelation is Macpherson's links to the Mafia. Macpherson's attempt to take over the big Sydney poker machine clubs has been foiled.
The Moffat Commission, I think, was a very important milestone in Sydney's response to organised crime. It certainly broke down a number of practices, identified a number of people.
Freeman has been exposed for his racetrack swindles, and Lenny Macpherson has had his criminal activities laid bare. The publicity causes him to be shunned by his relatives. When he's not invited to his mother's 70th birthday party, he knocks on her door holding a white rabbit.
And he says, "Hello, Mum, happy birthday. Did you have a nice party?" "Yes," she says, "all the family was there." And he interrupted her and said, "Well, not quite all the family. I wasn't invited." And she said, "Oh, well, Len, you know what it's like with the criminal stuff and all that." And with that, he wrenched the head off the rabbit and threw it on her front doormat.
Macpherson has no hesitation in trying to intimidate journalists who expose his crimes. Kevin Perkins is one of many to feel the force of the big man's displeasure.
Lenny came charging into my office, bellowing and shouting and screaming and abuse and saying that he was going to knock my block off, etc. And he was a very frightening sight, Lenny. He was a big, ugly man and very noisy and loud. And it was about 12 o'clock, and the editor and the sub-editors and the other reporters around the place all decided that it was an excellent time to go to lunch.
After the Royal Commission's conclusion, it's business as usual for the New South Wales government and the police.
I think it's fair to say that the governments of the day certainly failed to follow up on the recommendations of the Commission and could have saved us a lot of pain later on.
For Lenny Macpherson and George Freeman, business also returns to normal, with one important difference. Now, instead of their rivals being murdered publicly, they simply disappear. A Royal Commission has foiled an attempt by Lenny Macpherson and George Freeman to take over Sydney's big poker machine clubs. They're exposed as ruthless criminals, but the police still retain them as informants and leave them alone. In 1975, the by now knighted Sir Robert Askin retires. And a year later, the Labor Party under Neville Wran sweeps to power in New South Wales.
And moreover, the 10 years of the Neville Wran government wasn't much better. Those aspects of organised crime that Lenny was involved in, that's especially gambling and vice, they had something of a free run. And coupled with it, of course, there was police protection at different levels.
In return for giving Macpherson and Freeman continued immunity, police impose a new condition. They must stay out of the spotlight and ensure there are no more messy public killings.
They understood that if you wanted to be around for a long time, it wasn't about just shooting all your opponents. It was about having a peaceful business that kept under the radar and kept everyone happy.
Throughout the late 1970s, dozens of rival criminals are said to have been dumped in the ocean off Sydney.
I mean, I attribute about 8 to Macpherson, or organised by Macpherson. Probably 3 to Freeman, perhaps more. Coppers were killing people.
You're stuffed.
Journalist and author Kevin Perkins has no doubt that Freeman ordered the deaths of his enemies.
I don't think he was a killer on his own. I don't think he did the job himself, but he was a surrogate killer, I'm sure of that.
According to one underworld informant, some rivals are simply thrown alive into the ocean, 20 kilometres off Sydney.
You don't injure them in case the bodies are recovered, which is highly unlikely, so these people just drown. It's too far to swim back and there are many sharks there.
Freeman's empire grows stronger, and his success as a tipster cements powerful friendships with punters in the legal and the political establishment. There's public outcry when he's photographed at the races, sitting with the New South Wales Chief Magistrate, Murray Farquhar.
The police on duty at Randwick on that day took his photo, and I actually was the one who got hold of that picture, and we used it in the Sunday Telegraph, and caused a lot of trouble for him as a result, because he was thrown out of the member stand and never allowed there again. The police who actually did that job and took the photo were treated very harshly. They were just called up, each one on the phone, and transferred to other duties in other places without any explanation. And they were all good, honest cops.
Freeman continues his lifelong scam of dobbing in other criminals to win protection for his own operations. One of his main contacts in racing's administration is the tough and fiercely honest new chief steward, John Schreck, who's been given the job of rooting out corruption in the sport in New South Wales.
I will never say here, and I will take to my grave, a couple of things that George Freeman did to assist me in the control of racing in this town. And there were a couple of things going on that could have blown an autumn carnival sky high. It could have been destroyed. If I thought it would help Sydney racing during my time, I'd speak to Al Capone. And I make no apologies for the conversations that I had with George Freeman.
Hello? He was to the forefront in setting up what became, always referred to later as race fixing. He befriended jockeys and then ultimately paid quite a stream of jockeys, actually, to fix races, to the extent that George became famous or infamous at being able to give people, even magistrates, tips. Other notorious figures, particularly Bob Trimboli from Griffith, he got involved to the extent that on some very memorable police phone taps, he boasted of having all jockeys in one race on his payroll except one, and there were 14 jockeys in that race. So he paid off 13.
McPherson also takes advantage of Freeman's inside information.
I was betting at the tab. I bet on daily doubles, all on the tab. Look, I don't care if somebody gives me a tip and I know it's going to win. Have I done something wrong because I don't tell anybody else?
Were you a big punter?
I was a big winner, not a big punter.
And you put money, huge amounts on through the TAB, which is like a laundry for dirty money that you've accumulated for your other crimes, drugs and whatever.
He had his henchmen deliver money to me, and I went out and picked some money up off him one day at his house. I was thinking, gee, if I'm putting money on for George Freeman, there'll be good tips. I can put some of my own on and make a good profit. But tips weren't all that sensational.
Freeman's most sensational betting plunge occurs when a horse he'd owned, called Mr. Digby, stages an amazing form reversal.
There was a race at Randwick, I think he came 9th or something, well back in the field. 2 days later, there was a similar race at Canterbury. On this occasion, he ran brilliantly and finished up winning by about 8 lengths, I think. And about $500,000 was ripped from the bookie's ring.
I think one of the people who referred to the Mr. Digby race says he's never seen 7 jockeys desperately looking for a way not to win. George Freeman got married to Georgina the next day and proudly boasted that his win on Mr. Digby had more than paid for the lavish celebrations.
But for all their power, the two Mr. Bigs of Sydney are about to discover they are not untouchable. Another political storm is about to break over them, as Stan Smith delivers a sinister threat to a leading politician. And George Freeman will narrowly survive a bloody attack outside his home.
Successful year.
Lenny McPherson and George Freeman have survived a royal commission, and throughout the 1970s they consolidate their power.
I've got family!
They reject outward displays of violence. Now their rivals just disappear. But there's growing media exposure of their operations and a new, more determined opponent in state parliament. In 1979, opposition leader John Dowd launches a vigorous anti-corruption tirade in Parliament.
Ladies and gentlemen, place your bets.
After spending a secret night out at Sydney's illegal casinos.
No more bets.
There were hundreds there, hundreds of people with big money, you know, free liquor, all of the accoutrements of an illegal casino, and we were dealing with a multi-million-dollar industry.
Dowd implies in state parliament that corruption has seeped through the entire government.
And ask a series of questions of particular ministers, great holy men, like is payroll tax being paid in respect of premises, etc.? Did the Factory Shops and Industries Act complied with in respect of these premises? I went through a whole series of ministers, all of whom suddenly looked like people on the take.
Dowd's attack forces an embarrassed Rand government to order police action, and an elite squad under the direction of Inspector Merv Beck is established. Known as Beck's Raiders, they close down the illegal casinos and they seriously disrupt Freeman's SP operations. Freeman appears on ABC TV and plays down his involvement in any illegal gambling.
SP's a very minor thing. You asked me a specific question.
About being a big SP?
Yeah, and I just told you I wasn't.
So, what, your network wasn't as big as the CIA describes it?
No, it definitely wasn't. We were all my shops.
How big was your SP operation?
I wasn't an SP, I was a punter.
But you admit to being an SP.
I admit being an SP. I'm not a SP bookmaker today.
No, but you admit to having been one in the past.
Of course I do.
Right, well, how big was it?
It was just ordinary.
But despite his public denials, Freeman is secretly enraged over the disruption to his rackets. He sends Stan Smith to deliver a gruesome warning to John Dowd to drop his anti-corruption campaign.
Well, I got a message through my cat being killed, its head turned around the wrong way, on the front lawn. Wasn't a message, I wasn't going to drop off. The cat was then dead. I had a duty to continue what I was doing.
McPherson has now turned his inner western suburban home into a fortress.
There were cameras at the door, rotating, and the door was so heavy that you could hardly push it open because it was reinforced, and all the windows were thick and bulletproof. The place was surrounded by electronic beams, so you couldn't come in from any side, back or front or the sides, without an alarm going off inside. And when Lenny approached at night, the whole place was floodlit and his garage was quickly opened and closed. So he took no chances.
So there was a high level of paranoia, and it got worse as the years went on because he'd become a serious problem for a lot of criminals.
In 1979, George Freeman is returning home when he's shot by a gunman who's waiting in his driveway.
You mongrel!
One of the bullets enters his throat and exits through his eye.
I went in there and come out there.
A pretty lucky miss. Do you think they meant to kill you?
I think they meant to kill me. Well, I'll show you the clothes I shot in. See what you think you saw. No one's ever seen these. Yeah, but you reporters were writing me up for weeks before headlines how many millions and millions I was winning, and there's, when I drove in, they might have thought I had some of those millions and millions.
Police soon discover the attack is the result of Freeman's affair with the wife of a drug dealer who's in jail.
George actually then dumped her. she ended up acting as a madam for a brothel, and it led to tensions within the underworld.
You mongrel shit!
During the shooting, Freeman recognises his attacker as the woman's father. A few weeks later, the man's assassinated outside his home. No one is ever convicted of Freeman's shooting or the killing of the woman's father.
I've been told by honest detectives whom I trust and whom I believe would know who the man was who shot him, and he's in jail at the moment over another matter. That was organised, I'm told, by George Freeman.
Freeman remarries, and his new wife, Georgina, publicly defends her husband.
It's all amusing. I know it's not true, so...
Did you know about George Freeman when you married him?
Yes. Everyone knew about George Freeman, didn't they?
And it still didn't bother you?
No. Well, because I know him, and he's not what they say.
Well, how does a doctor's daughter even get to meet somebody like George Freeman?
I met him at a charity function, and we fell in love.
And your family didn't mind you mixing with this man?
They did a little, but once they got to know him, they love him.
I accept I was a baddie up till 16 years ago. I don't think I'm a baddie now.
Peace resumes, but it's only for a few years before the Sydney underworld explodes once again. In 1984, the apparent gangland calm in Sydney is shattered. A flamboyant criminal, Christopher Dale Flannery, nicknamed Mr. Rent-A-Kill, tries to move in on some of the city's major drug dealers.
Behind these scenes, you had Chris Flannery already telling people that he wanted to become the Mr. Big of organised crime and that he was going to take over.
Chris Flannery is alleged to have assassinated 3 major drug dealers in separate hits on Sydney streets. Some people, including his wife Kath, question whether he really is the killer.
Oh, I knew of his activities, but I've never known of... He wasn't involved in any gangland killings. I mean, he didn't kill any of those people.
For Lenny McPherson, the public murders pose a serious threat to his power because the police have started taking different sides.
And McPherson was desperate to negotiate some peace settlement in all of this to save his own life, because he believed he was going to be killed, you know.
He made the point. You just can't go around shooting everyone. It's bad for business. And I thought it was a very astute observation, and it was at that point at which he said, right, we've got to get rid of Flannery. He's got to go.
Flannery's family raised
One morning in 1985, Mr. Rent-A-Kill, Chris Flannery, leaves his home, telling his wife he's going to a meeting with George Freeman. He is never seen again.
The structure that I've been able to put together, which we can't prove, but it's the most probable series of events, is that a friendly, corrupt policeman tampered with the car, knew he would come out looking for a cab, and here's a friendly policeman with a car, we'll take you. Boom, and they took him to a place and put him in a boat and got rid of the body.
I don't think there's any doubt whatever that Lenny McPherson with George Freeman approved of that, and indeed I think you'll find that Lenny, George and their third key figure with them, Stan Smith, organised that, and there's been no finding of a body. Information I got very early at the time was that his body too was dumped at sea.
Flannery's wife protests loudly to the media that Freeman has killed her husband.
My husband's dead. I don't know whether they're going to murder me. They seem to be killing all the people they like and they're getting away with it.
Freeman gives an equally robust public defence.
To say you had nothing to do with his death?
I had nothing. Is he dead?
Well, I don't know.
Is he dead?
Police seem to think he might be.
And that? Well, I don't know that.
I certainly hope, for the good of the community and everyone else, and myself, and I certainly hope he's not coming back.
Suffering long-term pain from his shooting, Freeman becomes addicted to prescribed medication.
And he was taking heaps. He was getting pethidine prescribed to him or given to him by a few doctors. None of them knew the others were doing it. And he injected himself with pethidine and also took Valium with it, which was a seriously bad mixture.
George Freeman dies in 1991 of heart failure due to an asthma attack.
On the night he died, he injected pethidine. A capsule was found on the floor near his bed and had an asthma attack. Now, one thing pethidine in large amounts can do is inhibit the breathing.
Lived a pretty clean life all the time I knew him. He's never been to jail after we both went to jail. Neither of us have been back to jail since.
George Freeman is survived by his second wife, Georgina, and 5 children. They include 2 high-profile sons, David and Adam Freeman, who own a promotions company. They're reported to be investors in a nightclub with a kingpin of the King's Cross nightclub scene, John Ibrahim. The same John Ibrahim who once worked for George Freeman as an errand boy. After Christopher Flannery disappears, the public warfare ends. Lenny McPherson spends much of his time on the Gold Coast. But in 1991, he's arrested for arranging the bashing of a Sydney businessman.
The NCA claimed that McPherson wanted an unidentified man bashed and was willing to pay $20,000 for the job.
The attack is McPherson's heavy-handed way of helping a relative who's lost a major supplier of their liquor importing business.
I'm not happy about it all, but still, what can I do?
The old criminal still believes violence and intimidation can solve everything.
Why me? It's a one-horse race. I'm the only one they want.
But times have changed. After a lifetime of getting away with murder, Lenny McPherson is finally arrested and he's sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Not really frightened of going to jail, but I think I'll die there. I think I'll lose my memory there, and that's what I'm frightened of.
His fears are well-founded. In August 1996, one of Australia's most prolific killers suffers a heart attack and drops dead in jail. His fortune estimated at more than $10 million. To the bitter end, McPherson refuses to reveal details of all the killing and corruption that has been his stock in trade.
There's a couple of young, good cops went to see him thinking he's talking himself into dying. He was. Every time he talked, he'd say, I'm going to die here. You know? And they went and talked to him and just wondered if he might break down and tell a few truths. And he told them to go and get stuffed. So even right up to the end, he would not talk to good cops.